You're probably wondering how I got here. It all started with me and my partner pulling an easy lick off an old hag. He comes in trying to pressure sell us some water filters. Might have also been trying to secure some cheeks too. That's when I come in claiming to be from the actual water company and convince her to buy the filter. You know, life was pretty good. I pocketed the money, dapped up my boy, and that's when I spotted him. This goddamn gaijin. Looked like an easy mark, also I thought. I approached him with my perfected English.
Excuse me? Did you drop this?
I did my classic wallet switcheroo and thought I got away with it. But when I checked the wallet, I realized that I had been had. Not only did he, who I'd later know as Laurent, cop a feel, but the motherfucker switched it around. I didn't get a chance to process this because the police bust into our hideout. I make a break for it. That's when I spot the foreigner and hop in his taxi. I left my shit at the house, I think, and since the police were all over my place, you know, it wasn't a bad idea to take a vacation. So I followed him and took a flight to LA. He started telling me about a scam he's gonna pull off on a top studio exec, but he needs a Japanese person to go with him to really sell the authenticity of the goods. Naturally, I agreed to help him for a cut, of course. We get suited up together and the watch he's wearing looks very familiar, but I can't place where I've seen it before. Anyways, we pull up to the guy's mansion and Laurent talks his way inside to get a meeting. The big shot producer is really a mafia boss and is just using the producer name as a front. That's when I asked Laurent what the scam is, and the absolute madman says he's going to sell him some Japanese candy and say it's drugs. Not only that, but he's gonna sell it for 5 million. This is almost as much delusion as Dave Blunt's had when he genuinely tried crowd surfing. And hello mamacita. The mafia boss says she's fairly new to his staff. Laurent starts gassing me up to the big boss and says I'm the genius who created the drug. Obviously suspicious, he wants to see someone take it. Not gonna lie, at this point, I thought we were cooked. But that's when Shorty starts geeking. She better put that tongue away before I start getting freaky too. But no joke, the John jumps 20 feet in the air, does a backflip, lands it, and starts moving crazy. I don't know how, but he's genuinely about to pull it off. He starts pitching it to him, and the mob boss might actually buy it for 5 million. This scam is up there with Soulja Boy's gaming console, but something is weird and is not adding up. I start taking a closer look at Laurent's watch, and that's when I realized this motherfucker had been manipulating me from the start. He got me the same watch as him and said all people in his crew wear the same. My quote unquote partner I met a couple months back was wearing the same one. And even that old hag we scammed at the start was wearing the same watch too. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't actually the police and it was his henchmen. This guy had genuinely been manipulating me from the start. All I knew in that moment was I had to get the hell out of there. So I just start sprinting. Like Bully Maguire, I throw some dirt in his eye and use him like a springboard to jump over the fence. Little did I know, he even calculated me running as well and used it to sell the drug's effect even more to him. He stuffed a tracker in my tie, so he finally found me. But at that point, I had enough of his BS and was ready to throw hands. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. He steps out of the way, tripping me in front of her, who hits me with a nasty crane kick to the jaw. That's the last thing I remember before waking up strung out on the Hollywood sign. So we see some of Edamura's backstory. His mom is in the hospital, briefly mentioning his father. Whatever happened to him has put their family in a bad state. Edamura says he's found a job as a salesman selling tea. We see him with his old partner scamming a whole crowd, and whilst we're celebrating their earnings, the police show up and arrest them. They start interrogating him, and eventually he gets sentenced guilty to a couple of years in jail. The locals start talking him, and from the sounds of things, his dad was a scammer as well. Life for him goes pretty downhill from here. Edamura tries going legit, but no one is hiring him due to his past conviction. And to top it all off, his mum dies as well. Next scene, he confronts his old partner in a dark alley, and I thought he was about to slime him out here, but he decides to double down and says if everyone is calling me a scammer, I might as well fully commit. We flash forward to the future. Laurent and Abby tell him they're con men, practically forcing him to join in, same way Nina forced it on Silky's assistant. Edamura is pissed. He got force-fed drugs by him, and that's when Laurent tells him it was all an act. Showing off Abby's ability to act freaked out is just her acting. Laurent confirms that the old lady he scammed at the start was a scout of his. He was looking for a Japanese conman who could act the part. Basically, he confirms he was behind everything just to get him to go to LA. Still, it's sketchy as hell. He did all this just to get him? Why didn't bro just ask? This is the type of BS I have to pull in order to get a successful group link up with my friends. Laurent explains in more detail the producer's whole setup. The way he's talking about him is the same same way people be talking about Prime MC Hammer. Yeah, don't sleep on him. He was a secret demon. Basically, he's got the whole city under locks. Everyone's got to check in with him. And he's moving like Shannon Sharp when it comes to females.
But like you, man, y'all get to a certain age and you still like them young. You like the same, You like the same age girls I like.
Okay,
So
right.
when you get to a certain age,
I'm getting old.
But my eyesight is still young.
He also murks anyone who tries crossing him. Laurent explains the scam they're gonna pull off on him. Extra information as well. They're both running a side bet. Whoever can upsell the fake drugs for the most amount of money will become the boss essentially. Laurent tells him his code is he only scams crooks and doesn't go after anyone else. Obviously, it sounds completely nuts to Edamura, so he tries dipping in the night, but Abby gets him in a full rear naked choke. Hey, I wouldn't mind this one bit. After playing Dispatch, I might have developed something. After insulting him, she lets him go and he leaves. They both pretty much think he bailed on them, but when they turn up to the producer's place to tell him the bad news, he tells them the doctor's right here, and he said he doubled the price to 10 million. Even that's getting too crazy for Laurent, but somehow the mob boss says nah, it's cool, and he's willing to pay it. Bear in mind the side bet they have going on that whoever can sell the drug the highest will become the boss. We get a quick look on how he was able to sell him the fake drug for double the price, and it's a lot easier than you'd think. All he did was study up the mob boss's movies, met up with him, and gave a little sob story about how this drug he produces like his baby and no one believed in it in Japan. He throws a slight dig at the mob boss, and that's when he forces him to watch one of his movies, and he just begins gassing it up.
Shorty, you making me crash.
Basically, that's all it took to double the price to 10 million, a little smoke up his ass. However, when his accountant shows up, he doesn't bring the money and instead wants to confirm a couple things before completing the transaction. It's already looking ropey. They sent out some people to confirm Edamura was really a doctor in Japan, so some of his guys are visiting the company he's claiming he worked at to verify, and he is crapping his pants here. But obviously Laurent has already foreseen this and sent two familiar faces to pose as researchers at the company to vouch for him. With all that settled, all they gotta do is exchange the money. But they're aware that the LAPD is keeping a watch on them, so they try losing them in their car. He swerves in the other lane and hits a donut, but only me and Marlon could hit a maneuver like this. The police utterly fail and get hit by another car. Yeah, but guess what? The main detective in charge is also under his payroll, so that whole chase was a complete act. They pull up to one of his factories where he manufactures all his drugs, but instead of taking the recipe of Edamura, the mob boss says, like him, he's an artist and he wants to see the artist work his magic. So he asks him to create the drug live in front of him whilst everyone watches. Bear in mind, the receipt he gave him, I'm pretty sure he grabbed it off ChatGPT. Yeah, I don't see a way out of him here. A new hotshot detective takes over the mob boss's investigation. She tells the current lead detective she knows he's bought, and if he isn't fine with her taking over, then she'll expose him. Edamura and Laurent somehow talk their way out of it and say the conditions are too dirty for him to create his masterpiece. So the mob boss orders an entire new renovation and they'll match the factory to be identical to his. And to make matters worse, he insists on the doctor to stay with him and not at the hotel. He can't even talk strategy with Laurent anymore. We get some background lore on Edamura's dad and he might beat the bum fraud allegations. Bro is a whole lawyer. The rumors might be entirely false. The new detective squad is closing in on the operation as well in the background. Laurent pulls a few favors and gets him a video call with Chef Ainsley. He'll just teach him how to create a fake drug that's as close as possible to this Sakura magic, the fake drug they've made up. Whilst he's on the picture, the FBI guy grabs him, and I know that man did not wash his hands. Probably stunk as funky as Packboy Max. They strike him a deal and say if he becomes an informant, snaking Laurent and the mob boss, he'd get no charges and they'd send him back home. When he gets back in his room, Ed realizes he's being watched, and they've been openly talking about their scam, so the bodyguard on watch would have heard everything. We get a tense moment at a party where the mob boss calls out a traitor, but it turns out it's the accountant. Ed confronts the henchman and asks why he didn't report this to the boss. Basically, they had a whole bonding day with Ed and the bodyguard's kid. That made him like him, and he just couldn't be bothered to report it. Ed has a heart-to-heart telling him when his son grows up, this is just going to crush him. When he finds out his dad is working for the mob, we get a flashback to Ed coming home and seeing his father getting arrested for trafficking kids. I take back my previous statement. Seeing this is what caused his mom to fall sick. So Ed's conscience is holding him down and he decides to help the FBI. In exchange, he wants the henchman to get no charges as well. On his Walter White timing, he starts cooking. He's wearing the same sunglass glasses you see people use to record on TikTok. Whilst he's finishing up, the FBI begin moving on in. Orochimaru's student senses something is up. That's when the FBI breach in and completely surround everybody. The main FBI chick comes in and tells Ed to come with her. I mean, she could have done him a favor and made it less obvious, you know. He's defo gonna send people to find him in Japan. That's when Abby's crazy ass grabs a gun next to her, pointing it at the FBI woman. Like, actually, what in the hell was she thinking here? She's got a weapon aimed at her from every angle. What was she trying to do? I suppose she was trying to do the Mizkiff method and take down as many people with her before she gets ended. Laurent rushes in shouting, "Don't shoot," and I can't lie, I did not see this coming. They both get unloaded on by the firing squad and both drop dead. Damn. Unhinged at this point, Ed grabs a gun himself and takes the FBI lady hostage. In the midst of the chaos, the mob boss messes around with a pipe, causing an explosion in the factory, pretty much collapsing the entire thing. He wakes up with a bodyguard on top of him shielding him. He sees the mob boss making a run for it and follows him like Sasuke did Danzo, pulling him to the ground, but he gets overpowered quite quickly and gets his face beaten in with a goddamn cone. Before he almost dies, the bodyguard comes in and lands a satisfying punch to the mob boss's face, knocking him out. Ed wakes up tied up and sees the mob boss talking with the FBI chick. And you wouldn't fucking believe it, but he's about to pay her off so he doesn't go to prison. He has to shell out 100 million, which is his entire fortune essentially. And they're gonna pin everything on the bodyguard. Obviously, you know, distraught, Ed starts crashing out but gets knocked out. Next scene, he wakes up on a beach and sees the FBI chick. And you would not believe it again, but these two motherfuckers are back from the dead. I know there's some BS answer behind all of this. Turns out this was the plan from the beginning. Redhead, known as Cynthia, played the part of a real detective, coercing and convincing Ed to double-cross everyone. Laurent knew his conscience wouldn't let him go ahead with creating an actual drug. They then used prop guns and fake blood to fake their deaths, cornering the mob boss into thinking his only way out was to pay this ridiculously high fee. Once they secured the money, they gave the bodyguard all the evidence so he could turn it in and get a plea deal. So in the end, they end up making 10 million by selling the fake drug and an additional 100 million off of him, as well as sending him to jail too. And to top it all off,
alright, so 3, 2, 1, and scammer gets scammed, buddy. That's what you get. You're not getting our guns back. No. Whoa.
Laurent won the bet, but that isn't the craziest thing. The gang is caught. Ed decides to go back to Japan and take responsibility for his action. He hands over his cut to the police and says he's been scamming people for years. Very questionable decision, but that's where we leave the first case off in The Great Pretender. The next case starts with him leaving prison, and I'll stop it here. Thanks for watching.